The strangest kind of loneliness is not when no one is around you. It is when the world keeps moving and somehow forgets your name. When your phone stays silent. When your kindness returns empty. When the people you once carried on your shoulders walk past you as if you never existed. And on those nights, a terrifying question begins to whisper from the darkness. If no one chooses me, do I still matter? Most people spend their entire lives running from that question. But there was once a man who walked directly into it, and what he discovered in the silence changed everything. By the end of this story, you may never look at loneliness the same way again, because the greatest secret about happiness is hidden inside the very place most people fear the most: alone. Long ago, beyond crowded kingdoms and noisy markets, there lived an old monk in a valley surrounded by mountains. The mountains were strange. During the day they appeared gentle, covered with green forests and flowing rivers. But at night, they became dark giants standing against the sky like silent guardians of forgotten truths. The monk lived in a small wooden hut near the edge of a cliff. No family, no friends, no visitors. Years would pass without anyone knocking on his door. Yet travelers who occasionally crossed the valley spoke of something unusual. The old monk always smiled. Not the smile of a man pretending, not the smile of someone hiding pain. A deep smile, a peaceful smile, a smile that seemed untouched by circumstance. People could not understand it. How could a man with nothing be happier than those who had everything? One autumn evening, a young traveler arrived in the valley. His clothes were dusty, his eyes were tired, his heart was broken. He had spent years searching for belonging, years trying to be loved, years trying to earn approval. Yet everywhere he went, he felt invisible. Friends abandoned him, family misunderstood him. The woman he loved chose someone else. Even when surrounded by people, he felt alone. Especially then, when he heard stories about the smiling monk, he became curious. Perhaps this old man knew something the world did not. So he climbed the mountain path until he reached the hut. The monk was sitting outside beneath a tree whose leaves had turned golden. Wind moved softly through the branches. The sky burned orange with sunset. Without looking up, the monk said, "You came because loneliness has exhausted you." The traveler froze. "How did you know?" The monk smiled. "Because loneliness leaves footprints on the face." The traveler sat down. For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the wind moved between them. Finally, the traveler asked, "Tell me honestly, how can you be happy here? You have no one." The monk looked toward the mountains. Then he asked a strange question. "Have you ever seen a lake become disturbed by the reflection of a cloud?" The traveler frowned. "No." "Why not?" "Because the cloud is not really inside the lake." The monk nodded. Then silence returned. The traveler waited for an explanation. None came. As darkness settled over the valley, the monk invited him to stay the night. The traveler agreed, and so began a journey he never expected. The next morning, before sunrise, the monk woke him. Without explanation, they began walking. The path led deep into the forest. Tall trees blocked the sky. Shadows stretched across the earth. Hours passed. Neither spoke. Eventually, they reached a river. The current moved fast. White water crashed against dark stones. The monk stopped. "Cross!" The traveler looked around. "There is no bridge." "Yes. How?" "Cross." Frustrated, the traveler stepped into the water. The current pushed against his legs. The deeper he went, the stronger it became. Several times he nearly fell. When he finally reached the opposite side, he was exhausted. The monk crossed effortlessly. Then they continued walking. Hours later, they reached a mountain. Its slopes were steep and unforgiving. The climb was brutal. The traveler stumbled repeatedly. His muscles burned. His breath grew heavy. Yet the monk continued upward without complaint. By sunset, they reached the summit. The valley stretched endlessly below. Rivers shined like silver threads. Clouds drifted beneath them. The view was breathtaking. The traveler expected wisdom, a lesson, an explanation. Instead, the monk simply sat down and said nothing. Night arrived. Stars filled the sky. Still silence. Eventually, the traveler exploded. "Why are we here?" The monk pointed toward the horizon. "What do you see?" "Mountains. And beyond them, more mountains. And beyond those, I don't know." The monk nodded. "Exactly." The traveler grew even more frustrated. Nothing made sense. The journey, the silence, the strange questions. Yet something prevented him from leaving. A feeling as if a hidden door was slowly beginning to open. The next morning they descended the mountain. Days passed. The monk continued leading him through forests, rivers, valleys, and empty landscapes. Always walking, always silent, always observing. Then one afternoon they entered a barren desert. No trees, no rivers, no birds. Only endless sand stretching beneath a merciless sun. The traveler hated it immediately. The emptiness felt unbearable. Every direction looked the same. Every step felt meaningless. By evening, he could no longer contain himself. "Why are you bringing me here?" The monk stopped, then drew a circle in the sand. "What is this?" "A circle." The monk erased one side. "And now?" "A broken circle." The monk nodded, then asked, "Does the sky become broken when a bird flies away?" The traveler stared. Something about the question unsettled him. Before he could answer, the monk began walking again. That night, they camped beneath a sky overflowing with stars. The desert was silent, so silent that even thoughts seemed louder. The traveler lay awake. Memories surfaced, old friendships, old failures, old wounds, faces of people who had left him, promises that had been broken, moments he wished he could erase. The silence became unbearable. He wanted noise, distraction, anything, yet there was nowhere to run, and for the first time in years, he was forced to sit with himself, not with other people, not with expectations, not with hopes of being chosen, just himself. And what he discovered frightened him. Beneath all his loneliness was something deeper, a belief, a hidden belief he had never questioned. He believed his worth depended on being wanted. He believed happiness required witnesses. He believed being alone meant being incomplete. The realization shook him, because suddenly he saw how much of his life had been spent begging the world to confirm his value. The next morning, he shared this with the monk. The old man listened carefully, then asked, "If everyone suddenly praised you, would you finally become valuable?" The traveler hesitated. "No! If everyone abandoned you tomorrow, would your heart stop existing?" "No," the monk smiled. "Then why have you given strangers authority over your worth?" The question landed like thunder. For a moment, the traveler had no answer, because the monk was right. All his life he had been handing pieces of himself to people who never asked for them. Approval, validation, identity, meaning, and every time someone left, they took those pieces with them. No wonder he felt empty. He had spent years giving away the very thing he was searching for. Days later, they arrived at an ancient temple hidden among cliffs. The structure was old, its walls cracked by time, its roof partially collapsed. Nature had begun reclaiming it. Vines covered the stone. Flowers grew through broken floors. Inside stood a massive mirror, ancient, dust-covered, weathered. The monk led him toward it. "Look!" The traveler stared at his reflection. At first he saw only himself. Then something strange happened. As sunlight entered through the broken roof, the mirror revealed countless scratches across its surface. Thousands of marks, scars accumulated over decades. Yet despite them, the mirror still reflected perfectly. The monk stepped beside him. "Do you understand?" The traveler shook his head. The monk touched the mirror. "This mirror has endured storms, heat, cold, neglect, and time." His fingers traced the scratches, yet it never forgot its nature. The traveler watched silently. The monk continued. "People leave scratches on the heart. Rejection, a scratch. Betrayal, another scratch. Abandonment, another. Loneliness, another. But suffering begins when you mistake the scratches for your identity." The traveler felt something shift inside him. The monk looked directly into his eyes. "You are not the people who left. You are not the voices that rejected you. You are not the loneliness you feel. You are the awareness that witnesses all of it. The words echoed through the temple, and suddenly the traveler understood why the monk had taken him through rivers, mountains, forests, and deserts. Each place represented a part of his own mind. The river was attachment, always pulling, always demanding. The mountain was expectation, endless climbing toward approval. The forest was confusion. The desert was emptiness. And the mirror. The mirror was the self beneath all conditions. The self that remained when everything else disappeared. For the first time, tears filled his eyes, not from sadness, from recognition. Years passed in a single moment. Years of chasing, years of proving, years of begging to be enough. And suddenly he saw the truth. He had always been enough. The world simply could not show him what only he could discover. Weeks later, the traveler prepared to leave. Before departing, he asked one final question. What if the world turns away again? The monk smiled, the same peaceful smile that had puzzled so many. Then he pointed toward the sunrise. Golden light spilled across the mountains. Birds crossed the sky. The valley glowed with life. Does the sun stop shining when no one watches? The traveler stared silently. No. The monk nodded. Then neither should you. Years later, people would speak about another smiling man wandering through distant lands. A man who no longer carried no bitterness. Man who seemed strangely happy even when walking by. Himself, many assumed he had found better. Friends. A better life. Better circumstances. But they were wrong. What he found was something far rarer. He stopped treating himself as a place to escape from. And perhaps that is the deepest loneliness of all. Not when others leave, but when we abandon ourselves right now, somewhere inside your own life. There may be a desert, a season where calls go unanswered, a season where people misunderstand you, a season where the world feels distant, and perhaps you have begun believing that your happiness is waiting for someone to arrive, someone to choose you, someone to complete what feels missing. But what if the story is different? What if this painful silence is not a punishment? What if it is an invitation to meet the person you have spent your entire life avoiding yourself? Because happiness was never hidden inside another person's approval. It was never locked inside popularity. It was never waiting inside the next relationship, the next compliment, or the next validation. Those things can bring joy, but they cannot create worth. Worth already exists, like the mirror beneath the scratches, like the sky beyond the clouds, like the sun shining whether anyone watches or not. And perhaps one day, when the world becomes quiet, when the crowd disappears, when nobody calls your name, you will sit in the silence and realize something extraordinary. You are still here. Your Breath is still here. Your awareness is still here. Life is still flowing through you, and in that moment, loneliness may reveal its final secret. Was never sent to destroy you. It came to introduce you to the one companion who will remain until your final breath. The person staring back from the mirror. So if the world turns away, do not turn away from yourself. Because the day you stop abandoning yourself, you may discover that happiness was never waiting for someone else to stay. It was waiting for you to stay.